Okay, good afternoon, everybody. First of all, let me apologize for being a little slow here in getting out your Thursday, April 4th update, and I'll follow this in a few hours with everything that happened on Friday, since it's already Friday close of market. So a lot of excitement, as you know, with declaration, pay date, the drop in price from the payout values. I've been personally very involved in doing my taxes when you have a really good year like I did last year and so far this year. But last year, it's very complicated when you do all of your taxes. So I'm very much doing that, loving the fact that I did well, but nonetheless, it's time consuming. Should be done this weekend, and I'll be back to a better schedule and getting these things uploaded. All right, let's jump into CONy with our underlying coin. So on 4-4, after declaration, we closed down as you would expect. So if you look at CONy, we were down 10.32%. Well, pretty much the 10% was in the 2.7944 payment, which hopefully you guys are excited. And I have some other things to share. You should see what the share count did. As you could expect, these were two of the, well, clearly a record was set with MSTY paying out $4.12. Nobody's ever paid $3 or more. CONy paid a new high of $2.79, and that's one of the highest payments I think NVIDIA and somebody else has had, up in the 280s. So anyway, moving along, 78 cents, 78 cents, less than 1% down move in the underlying, right? So coin went from 251.58 to 249.61. We went down because of the massive payout. No trades, but we are in a new month, so you'll notice that the accounting and how much profit we're making and how we're doing on our weeklies are going to start rolling up in the April tab. But let's go over and look at our synthetics. So two things that are going on with both MSTY and CONy is we are lagging a little in our synthetics because it looks like we're in a wave 4 consolidation, and so we're in this trading range. So on coin, we're somewhere in the 270s down to the 240s, and we're just going back and forth. That will break out when it decides to, and it'll move pretty well, hopefully by our 4/19 date. But let me just say that we didn't have any more trades here. I expect a lot of action on Friday, and we saw that, right? To give you a little heads up, on Friday, we were able to capture all the gains in our weeklies. And actually on Thursday, with this close, we're slightly in the money, 746,000 profit. And look at this, we're at 249.61, we're 16 hundredths of 1% away from our strike price, and we have a profit. Again, that's just based on the high volatility, and when we look at the active tab, you'll see it. I think we're up around 95%. So when you get these high IVs with the premiums, the call can still remain and have more value. So that's what's driving that. Let's look at March and see what's changed, what happened with cash with the payout. So no new trades. I did go through and update most of the situation. Whoops, I'm in March. We want to be in April. Okay. So we updated here. I update in both places, but I'll stop updating March, and I moved everything over here to April. So we're now setting with a 27 million cash change. And what's happening there, that's driven by the inflow of the shares being bought, right? So when people buy shares, that's contribution capital. So look at this. I added a stat here, because before I just let you know if it's green or red on the share count. But I actually wanted you to know, so in one single trading day, obviously after they announced that they were paying 279, so people look at that and say, oh, I want to jump in that fund, right? Or I traded out of it and sold at a higher price and I want to buy back in and I'll forego. So everybody has their strategy. I personally don't try to do that. Because it can run away from you. You have never known anyone that can completely be successful. You can be successful a few times, but you have to accept your loss if you really want to own it. And right now there's too much upside on CONy and MSTY going forward if we get the kind of bull market we're expecting with the underlying crypto. Okay. So $1,050,000 is 7.45% in one day of the install base, the owner base, right? So we went from 14,100,000 shares to 15,150,000 shares. So, MSTY got a nice bump, but it's a smaller base that it's operating from. Okay. What else is relevant? This is, I try to line these up together. So what's happening for some of you newer guys, I can find this data from the fund managers where they put it out, and I see what their daily holdings are, and then at the end of the day, I see what their daily trades were. That's how I'm able to report this. So I take their data and I massage it a little bit, because when you get the raw data, they make mistakes. They'll put 424 and they'll leave out 5, or in the case of 19 for a synthetic, or 12 when they put on a new call that's further out another week. So don't always, and my purpose is I make sure to do that. It's kind of time consuming. It's probably why I couldn't do this for 10 funds or something. And people ask about ULTY, ULTY, and I'm going to do a summary on that one. It's just too many underlying shares. I think they own 18 stocks, and based on volatility or lack thereof for option premium, they drop stocks and add stocks sometimes on a weekly basis. So it's a lot of work to track that. Okay, so moving forward, no trades, but let's review. We looked at synthetics. So let's look at the active. So we got one trading day. All right, and the trend isn't that high. I don't expect us to be over the synthetic price on Friday of 250 where we've been trading. So let's look what we stand to gain. So here's the bulk of our contracts on CONy based on coin are the 285s, and we have 14,360, so some 90%, right? And they all expire tomorrow. So look how far out of the money they are. 14.8, 17 point. So right there you've got almost 15,000, right? And the other 1,000, it's not quite 15, it's 14,785, right? With only 1,150 in the 6 and 8%. So you can be pretty, 99% probability we collect all that. But they're already down in the dollar range or cent range. So we'll capture all of that and look at the 8 and 6. I just don't think the underlying, I don't think coin's going to run for a few more days. Hopefully we get going and these synthetics start making us a lot of money. All right, so we closed at 25.82. Here's our trading stock. Here's what we can make. We can make $3.56 a share, okay, in our short calls, right? In our weekly calls. That's what's left to make with one trading day. So pretty excited about that. If we can just get that synthetic going next week, right? They've already rolled into a 412. So let's go over holdings again. So again, I talked about this. You can see the difference. You always want your calls, your call 250 synthetic versus your put. You always want more value here. So as the underlying rises, this value goes up, and as it rises and you get closer to 419, the put shrinks. So that's put can drop $15.26 from where it's at right now. That's all it can drop, right? This is an unlimited on the upside. So that's why these synthetics are bullish. So you guys that don't know, that are just joining the channel, since I'm a young channel, I want to explain that. In yellow, I highlighted all of our call activity, right? These are our weeklies. So you see a 265, that's not that far out of the money, at 270, but we've only got a little bit more to capture. We've got 7 cents on our 285s and only 6 cents. So it's still a nice amount of income. And if we look at our April tab, we can see what these are. We've got 7 million, okay, that we sold these for, and that's sitting out there. So there's the 356 a share that's still out there. Let's look at our payment tabs. So we don't have anything recorded in April. So obviously after tomorrow, okay, so after Friday's closing, we could have a lot of cash here, right? Now, the share count jumping 7.45, you have to share it with a lot more people, right? So it's probably a decent time to buy this when CONy pulls back in the 25 range. Again, where do you see the synthetics going? Where do you see CONy, the underlying, going? You need to be fairly bullish. If you're playing this only to collect the dividend and don't have any confidence in the underlying, then you're probably in the wrong position. There's a lot of high flyers that I'm not buying at this time, right? That pay a big dividend because I'm not really bullish on the underlying at the moment. Okay, let's jump into MSTY. So hopefully that helps you understand what's going on with COIN and where we are, and you know, congrats to all the longs. All right, let's go to MSTY. So here's what we had in the way of trades on 4-4. Both these are going to have, CONy and MSTY are going to have massive trades where they're buying back for a penny or something all of these outstanding weeklies. We'll see if there's any roll on the synthetics. I doubt it. With 2 weeks to go, they still got a lot to capture on the puts. Okay. So MSTY did a buy. They don't bother to call it BO, but if you're familiar with options, it's a buy to open position for 130 contracts, and they paid 169.16. Still going with the same synthetic. They did a sell short on the put, right, for 164. Now what's nice about this is they actually, well, it's $5, but it almost pays for itself, right? So they're spending 169 to buy the call, because if it runs to 1800, 1900, 2000, you know, like that, if it ends up 2500 as you go into 419, then that's $800 right there, just with no time premium left. So you turn 169 times 130 times 100 into 800 times 130 times 100. So that's significant cash. Who knows what it's going to be, but we're hoping that it's above 1700, and it really needs to be above 1830 to be profitable. So whenever they do the buy, sell, the synthetic pair, they typically match that. Why are they even doing a trade right now, right, in the synthetic? Because cash comes in. You don't want to park all your cash in the treasuries, right? Because you need to put that money to use, because their goal is to generate 2, 3, 4% on these weeklies. that constitute the distributions. And if they do one roll on their synthetics, which are typically out 3 to 6 weeks, then if that's profitable, they have a big piggy bank, which is exactly what happened in CONy and MSTY. So let's take a look at those trades. So here's our 4-4 update. Here's our 169 buy call, 164 sell put. Okay, takes us up to a total of 470, and we spent almost 2,200,000, and we collected 2,134,000. So not bad, really. These are the March. So I didn't show any April update. We're still behind the curve here, right? Because look where we are. We're at 1615, and 1700 is our strike. So if we were to close this position out today, it would cost us 3,775,000. So obviously, we want to get over 1700. I doubt tomorrow we'll do that, but we'll see. But then that means all of our weeklies will collect full premiums, which is super positive. But we do need to get going. But we do have the time. All right, let's look at the April tab. So I went in and updated this on the weekly naked call. I'm selling the call short, right? So these, by the way, are 412s, because look at the premium. If they would have tried to do, one day, they wouldn't have gotten any. They've got plenty that they're going to close out and make money on. So, I didn't really go over this for you guys. Let me do that. So how did the tracking stock and how did our stock MSTY do? Okay, well, let's take Mr. first, MicroStrategy. So it closed up from 1606 to 1615. So it's less than 1 full percent, 0.58%, negligible, right? Oh, look at this. We closed down 9.28%. But again, no panic, no worry. All that is reflecting the payout. Actually, the stock did pretty well. I wouldn't be surprised that it doesn't dip. But look at how many people came into that. And I'll share with you the share count increase. So we collected, and where was that? So we sold a 1920, right? So the stock's underlying is setting at 1615. So we went out 1885. That's pretty nice. So we have 6 business days to try and capture that, right? We could run up to 1780, 1800, 1850 and still collect all this money and put our synthetics back in the money, which is really what we would hope for next week. All right, so we collected 689,000 on that, added to our 60, and you'll see that in our short call income when I go to payments, right? Whereas we don't show anything in CONy because CONy hasn't put any new trades on. So our cash is 66 million. They'll move all this stuff around. That went up 22 million. Mostly treasures. You see a lot of it for making the payment came out of the government, the first American government. So remember, the other thing that happens in these funds, how do these funds even exist? Because the definition of an ETF is really not single stock exposure. So the rules in the exchanges say they can't have more than 25% constituted into a single stock. Well, you would say this is a single stock ETF. How do they get around that? Well, they get around it because this isn't what's known as a true covered call fund. There are funds out there that have covered calls, but usually they're returning 15, maybe 25% in a dividend yield annually. Because what they did here is they chose the underlying stocks that have huge IV, right? Not all of them. I mean, your apples and some of them don't have that kind of, but they're paying 30-35% yield, right? If you want 100-120% yield, like in CONy and MSTY, then you have to have a high IV, and that's what they have. So that constitutes these premiums that they're able to capture. All right. So we got our 1920s and, so to finish that thought, so when they're doing synthetic positions, they don't own the underlying, right? They buy a call, sell a put. And then their cash, which constitutes the bulk, they need the cash available to handle the margin requirement, because you're doing a derivative and you need to show the cash that you're ready to buy that back, right? These type of options that they do with this synthetic, they don't get assigned because it's a classification of a European option. You get an exercise if the buyer who went the opposite direction, right, of the buyer of the put and you were the seller of the put and it moves against you, they can exercise their position and that makes you get assigned or put the stock. This type of things they do in their puts and their option pairing on their synthetic use European rules. So there's no such thing as being assigned until the close, and the way it gets handled is you don't get assigned, you just pay cash. So they can lose money on a synthetic at the close date if they don't roll it. And the way around getting out of that is just rolling it into a future. So anyway, if anybody has any thoughts or questions, it's complicated. And if I'm giving you too much, I understand, but those that want to know, I'm providing. And I'm only covering these two funds right now, so time permitting, I can go into that. Okay, so we're setting pretty good on that. Let's go over and look at active. All right, this is going to be a crazy day, guys. And I should cover synthetic. So I covered this position. All right, so let me go to active. Tomorrow we can capture $7.86, right? These are all in the short call income, and that's exactly what they're trying to do. They want to win on their synthetics, but they really want to win on the weeklies. So look at this. We have the bulk, again, 195. All right. The cap percentage and how this is all done, it says how much is remaining and where is the asset that you put this on, right? Well, if we go back in and we look at the 195s, we look at the strike price. So the strike price of where the underlying is traded versus where you sold this call is how you go about knowing whether you're capped or not. When they run by these weekly strike prices, we make money up to a certain point and then we start to lose money. And so that's what they mean by fully capped. It's kind of complicated, but we're doing the calculations for you. So there's $3.63 out on this 195. This is the new guy that we just showed you here in April, right? This is out on 412, right? So it's got more capture. It's got $53, right, per share times 130 times 100, because there's always 100 shares in a single contract. So you got a lot of money setting out here. So in theory, we can't capture all of that. In this case, only in this one, right? We can't capture all that money till 412. All this other money we literally can capture tomorrow because those positions end. All right. So let's look at the payments tab. Okay. So what we did, we sold a 60, we sold a call position, a short call position, and we collected 60. We added 680 more, 689,000, right? So these two numbers that we're now counting for April once we did the dividend or the distribution, they call it payout, accounting starts for what we have. So we have 60,000 and 689,000. So we have 749,000, which look, we've already at 35 cents, right? And look at this share count, right? Just massive. Oh, I didn't calculate the percentage gain on my holdings like I did for CONy, so I apologize for that. But it was massive, right? And that's what you expect when Sony comes out and pays $4.12 and nobody has ever paid that, right? Let's hope that it pans out for us all in this next month, because this stuff's volatile. You know, we're consolidating. My guess is, you know, we're range bound now from say 1400 to high 1900s on MicroStrategy. It will break out, but could it consolidate another week? I mean, clearly we want these synthetics by 419 to get there. That gets to halving. We know likely the real gains are going to come after the halving, but we certainly don't want to lose on our synthetic. Okay, let's get back to our payments. So here we are setting, we got 35 cents in the kitty, and we're one trading day into our ex-dividend and our new day. So let's see how tomorrow holds up. We should have a lot more to contribute there. So pretty exciting on these funds. I just get a little nervous, even though we have 2 full weeks plus tomorrow to get this synthetic going, but I don't expect anything tomorrow. Okay, guys, hit me up with questions. I know some of you are starting to ask things, and I made a mistake yesterday. I showed on my 4.3, I showed 4.2 because I was so busy with the tax man and getting everything together. So today I made sure when I do the 4.4 update that I leave it that way, and then I'll go do my 4.5 updates with everything that happens inside here, and you guys can see it. All right. Hey, again, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This is for entertainment and fun. As a young growing channel, thank you for your support so far. Thank you for the comments. Trying to answer everybody. Tell your family and friends about it. I'm having fun doing this, and hopefully we all can make a lot of money. Oh, one other thought. I'm doing other trades outside of MSTY and CONy. You know, I'm thinking about, as my subscriber base gets much higher, of doing a Discord. But if you guys want me to tell you what I'm doing, I will. And so yesterday on 4.3, I put on a synthetic long myself on Newmont, because as you know, gold's running, these gold stocks have been super lagged, they're super behind. So I put a synthetic out to September on Newmont, 37.5, and already now the next day I'm up massive on that, and you know, the analysts are starting to upgrade. You cannot be a gold miner and have $2,300 gold when it had been 2,100 and been 1,900 in the previous quarter, especially when you're the second largest miner in the world, without your earnings just going through the roof, right? So be aware of that. I do a lot of other things. If anybody wants me to talk about them on the channel, even though this channel has gotten started on MSTY and CONy, I'm not going to go away from those at all. I'm going to keep my dailies. Just hit me in comments. I'm happy to share what I'm doing with you. Okay, have a good one. Bye for now. Whoops, I did not give you the holdings. Good thing I didn't hit that. Up, look at this, guys. Up 575. Whoops, am I on the right? Let me do it in a different way. I think I'm in OBS using this, so I think this little black box can, look at this. 575,000 shares were added. I can kind of do the math in my head. 1,550 is where it was. So roughly 600,000 or 575 on 150. That's like 38%, guys. 38% of people flowed into the fund. Just massive. I mean, when you look at CONy at 15 million or whatever, it's small potatoes, but that's massive. So these guys are going to deploy capital, and you're going to see a lot of new positions, which is why they did. And we'll see what happens on Friday. Okay, guys, kept you long enough. Bye. Have a great one. See you on the next one.